I am a fool. That is one thing for certain.
Hey, my name is Brian Curtis, and I'm the founder of Decentralized Systems. And today I have Guillermo, and I forgot your last name. What's your last name again?
Naranjo.
Okay, I'll let you say that because I there's no way I could say it as well as you did.
It's all right.
Yeah. And so you are the lead electronic warfare engineer at SJC, correct?
SRC.
SRC. Okay.
Mhm.
So of course, I kind of told you this before we got on here, but just let us know, how you got to where you're at, and maybe describe as much of your job as you can. If you're a warfare engineer, there's probably some stuff you can't talk about, right? But
Yeah.
uh, yeah, just let us know, as much as you want to tell us.
Well, Brian, been a quite a long journey because I'm originally from South America, from
Okay.
Venezuela, and I grew up there. Was born and raised. And when I was 14, my mom decided basically to sell everything, and kind of like she kind of did the same thing. She wanted to follow her dreams, and we all went to Miami, and we had a few stepping stones to go through. There was a lot of roadblocks to get Miami in the first place because when after we sold everything and we started the process of moving, because of the heat and everything in the containers, our passports melted,
Oh
and
no.
yeah, so we were stranded in the capital, and we lived with my aunt for like 8 months while we were able to get our passports and our visa together. And everybody kept telling my mom, "Hey, what if this doesn't work out? What if you don't get the visa? What if you can't go?" And my mom had only one thought. She's like, "I'm leaving. We are gonna make it there, and you cannot change my mind." So that was basically our motto. Like, yeah, we're gonna make it. We'll be there.
Right.
So we spent 8 months there, and then I got to Miami. Um, we lived with my family for a little while. Then my mom ended up getting three different jobs, and at the same time, she's all part-time jobs. And we were able to move into a loft. So the three of us was my little brother, my mom, and I. And it was this little one bed. It didn't even have a bedroom. It was just like the entryway, and then you got the stairs, and it was a loft and a bathroom. And we lived there for I could probably say about 3 years. So I spent my whole high school career there, and I only had one thought in mind. I'm like, okay, my mom brought us here. Um, my only job is to do well in school. If I want to make it in this country, the only way that I know how to make it in this country is to have an education. So I worked on my grades. That's what I did. As soon as I got in high school, obviously the main barrier was the language. I think it was one of the hardest struggles. And the culture. The culture was so different. I had come like in the school in Venezuela that I was in, it had from kindergarten all the way to eighth grade, 300 students.
Right.
So
That's way more than
yeah,
my school, though. I'm
it,
sure
it,
Miami's huge.
yeah, exactly. So I got into high school, and just the high school alone had 4,000 students.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just that alone was such a shocker. Culture shock right off the bat. Nobody spoke. I didn't speak the language. So they did have those ESL classes that are like 50-50 split between Spanish and English. So that did help with the transition. Um, but it was not allowing me to be to where I wanted to be at the time. So I wanted to be in honor classes, AP classes, and that I learned because some of my friends were doing that, and I know that by taking AP classes, I was going to be able to get a better university, better GPA, all of these different things. But I couldn't get the classes because I was a dual language student. So my main goal was, okay, well, I got to learn the language like now because I only have 3 more years to do this. Because after freshman is really when I found out about honor classes and AP classes and whatnot. So senior year comes around, and I get a call from my counselor saying that Florida Tech wanted, they basically automatically accepted me into the program um, for science or aviation or engineering. So I had to basically pick a path. And I chose science. I always I was always inquiring about how things worked. Like I remember when I was 7 years old. Huh?
Me too. Sorry.
Yeah.
Me neither.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I was 7 years old, we would be driving in my mom's car, and I'd be dropping the ball, and I'm like, "Hey, what? How come the ball it's falling down? How come it's not falling back? Because it's in the air."
Yeah.
And I would ask my mom, and she'd be like, "Just be quiet. I don't know. Just be quiet."
Wait,
So
inertia. Yeah. All that.
yeah, yeah. So I went up on my way to basically go out around and learn all that stuff on my own. And the more I got into it, I took physics classes in high school, chemistry, biology. I realized that chemistry and biology was not for me. It's not a thing that I wanted to do at all.
A lot of memorization. It's mostly
A lot of
memorization.
memorization and less of understanding, at least
Yeah.
from my point of view. But physics, I understood.
Right.
I understood
It's more
physics.
about
I
figuring
enjoyed
stuff
physics.
out, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so I did that. And then I got into the physics program. I got into Florida Tech. And I had a lot of people helping me along the way. This is when I started learning the concept of mentorship, and not just from like a teacher point of view, but for the people that you find along the way that will make your dreams come true, basically, you know? So um, I knew that as a physicist, you needed to do research. As any kind of scientist, if you want to make it in the world, you have to do kind of research. So the moment that I entered into the program, and as a freshman, I went to into the dean's office, and I told him, hey, I just started. I want a job. I want to do research, and I want to start right now. And he said, well, hold your horses, man. Like you're just getting started. I know you're really motivated, but as a freshman, your grades are really important. So let's do something. Come back next year as a sophomore, and if you were able to survive this first year, I'll give you a job.
Survive.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, basically, those was not his exact words, but somewhere along those lines.
Right.
So I did. I got a job. As a sophomore, that was the first week of class. I showed up in his office, and I'm like, look, you told me that a year ago that you were going to give me a job, so here I am. And he did. He gave me a position with one of the professors there doing lightning research, and Florida being the lightning capital of the world.
Sure.
It was amazing. I worked with amazing scientists that they taught me how to do research. They taught me how to think outside the box, and it was pretty fascinating. I think in my class I was the only because when we get to senior design, which is basically you get senior seminar, you come up with a project and you show what you did.
Right.
A lot of people would do the theoretical work. Some people would do data analysis, and some people would do the experimental work. I'm like, well, I wanted to do all three. So I designed the project, I developed the experiment, and I did that analysis for it. And everybody was, oh my God, I can't believe you did all that. I'm like, it's fascinating.
You guys
So,
ever, I got to stop you. Did you guys ever try and capture the energy of a lightning strike into capacitor banks or anything like that?
yeah, we did. They actually did do that, but it's not efficient. People say, well, we should be able to capture the lightning
Right.
energy and all this stuff and use it as a power supply. Uh, you can't, because
It's
the
too
amount of energy
fast.
that
There's so much
yeah,
energy all at once. You don't have a capacitor that can run that much at the same time, right?
exactly, and that's what people don't understand. It's like it's it's like you said, the amount of current that is going through it, it might be a lot, but the timing is not enough for us to
Yeah.
charge.
We don't have a superconductor that can do that and
No,
store that kind of energy. No.
yeah. And my professor would every seminar he got that question. So he was always trying to answer that to people.
I'll have to think on that one. Maybe I'll get back to you later on that one.
Yeah, of course. But anyway, I wanted to do more research. You fall in love. I got engaged. I got my heart broken. My life changed completely. I think that was one of my first turning points in my life, that you go from everything being butterflies and rainbows to like, hey, this is a little bit of a taste of reality.
Yeah. Marriage is always a taste of
Yeah. So I decided to leave Melbourne and I came to Texas. I came here for grad school at the University of Texas, San Antonio, at UTSA. And I was doing space physics at the time. I was not ready to do grad school. Maturity wise, I was very immature still, I was very young. And it bit me in the butt. It was it, really hard the first couple of years. And I had to switch fields because it just didn't work out for me. I was doing space physics at the time. And I think back now, and I'm like, man, I can't believe that I did all that with the amount of information that I had, all the knowledge that I had at the time. I think I did advance a lot, but it wasn't enough for what they needed from me at the time. So I had to make a choice. At the time, I was already with my current wife, and between her and my dad, because I was ready to quit the program, I was ready to just give up. It was one of those times that my life bit me over the head, and it says, okay, this is where you stop. This is where you have to make a choice. You either graduate with your master's degree and find a job, or you go in all the way and you make a choice, change your path, try to tweak a little things, fix the mistakes that you made, and then start over, but start over with a different attitude, with a different mentality. So I chose to do that. Between my wife and my dad, they basically helped me find the path that I'm at now. They told me just go in all the way, get your PhD. It's gonna happen. It's just you just gotta work harder. So I did. I switched my path from space physics to biophysics, and that's what I did for 6 years after that.
Okay.
So I finished my PhD, and the PhD in biophysics was a little bit of electrical engineering. It was mostly photonics. That's really what it was.
Okay.
So a little bit of electrical engineering, biology, and physics at the same time. So I had to do a little bit of learning on the stuff that I didn't know, like all the biological side of things and the electrical engineering side of things that I didn't know at the time.
I
And
think
so,
a chemistry background helps with biology, correct? I mean,
yeah, I did.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did that and I graduated. So basically, I was doing a lot of infrared research, which is what led me to the position that I have now. So once I graduated, I already had a family. I had my wife, my daughter, and I realized that I couldn't survive. My wife also decided to go back to school, so she was a student. And I said, well, you can't survive with a postdoc salary, neither with a postdoc salary or a professor salary. And you cannot be a professor if you don't have a postdoc. So I would have had to wait 4 or 5 more years doing very little, a lot of work for very little pay. So I said, okay, I'm going to have to go to industry. So leave academia, go into industry. Okay, which branch of industry? There's so many things that you can do.
Yeah.
So through networking, that's one of the things that I did a lot in grad school was network. I met a lot of people. I was the president of the Graduate Society of Physics Students, so I made a lot of connections. I presented. One of the biggest fears that I had at the time was presenting in public, so I made sure that I presented in public every single time. I went to conferences, I did posters, I did oral presentations. I became president of the Graduate Society of Physics Students, which forced me to speak in front of the department, go and get funding for some things. So I think that obviously the more practice you get, the more you realize, hey, I'm not going to die standing up here talking to people. So,
Right.
so, which I think people compare that the fear of talking in public more so than even the fear of dying. So
Oh yeah, so they're just afraid of exposing themselves, right? I mean,
yeah, it's the
find
fear
out
of
what I'm like.
failure. What are people going to think, and so many things,
Yeah, don't worry about it. We're all weird, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think through I remember I went to a barbecue and I was at a friend's house and we're talking to some guys. They found out that I was looking for a job. and they say, hey, you know, I work at SRC, we're a defense contractor, and we're looking for physicists specifically for people in the infrared that work with the infrared. So I'm like, hey, that's what I do. So I applied and I got the job. That obviously the transition between being a PhD candidate to actually graduate with my PhD, those were 2 years of turmoil, of stress, of long hours.
Writing your doctorate, right?
Yeah, so I had a little bit of extra stress because my professor had a beef with the dean of the department. And every time I would try to get time on a microscope or anything, he would say, well, no, I'm not going to give it to you. I'm like, why not? Well, because you're that lady student. So I'm not
Right.
going to allow you to have anything. So
Do you want me to send this recording to the dean then? We
no,
can.
I mean, I don't think he wouldn't be able to see it right now because he's no longer there.
Oh, okay. He probably
So
doesn't care now anyway, right?
yeah,
It's all
things in the
water
past.
under the bridge.
Yeah. But anyway, at the night before my dissertation defense, I get a call from my the head of my committee, my dissertation committee, and she's like, "Hey, Professor A and B, which is the chair of the department, doesn't want you to present. He's canceling your dissertation defense, and he won't let you graduate." And you can imagine my whole world collapsed right then and
Like,
there.
why was I even here, right? I just wasted
Yeah.
all this
So
time.
I just remember just literally just collapsing in the bed and crying. I'm like, I can't believe that after this whole time, everything that I have done for the department, for everything, this is happening right now. I got into a little bit of a victim mode
Mhm.
because at the time that was happening to me. And I'm like, okay, you have two options. You can sit down and cry, or you can rise up to the occasion, call every single committee member and tell them that you're going to present no matter what. And you're going to go talk to the dean, to the chair, to the provost, to whoever you want to talk to, first thing tomorrow morning. Tell them what's going on. But you tomorrow at 10 a.m. you're presenting your dissertation. And I did. I called every single member of my committee that night. I think it was like 10 or 11 p.m. at night. And I told them, hey, I'm presenting no matter what. If you have my back, be there. If not, that's fine. But I'm still going to be presenting, but I would really appreciate your support. And every single person showed up. And they all signed the paper. They all signed my dissertation. And we handed it into the department. And, again, water under the bridge.
Oh yeah. People love bravery, right? And they like confidence. It's like, hey, I'm not going to be put out of this. You can't keep me down, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it was definitely a transition period in my life. It's like you
Oh,
rise to the occasion in a moment that you're down, and it just changes the chemistry in your brain. It
yeah.
changes who you are.
The Captain Ahab moment where he's spitting his last breath, stabbing the white whale. Ah,
Exactly.
you'll never get me.
Yeah. So anyway, I graduated. Actually, I got the job at SRC before my graduation. So I actually walked the stage after I was already employed at SRC. So when I got employed at SRC, they wanted me to do a little bit of work for them. Basically, what we do is the information that we generate is used to be able to help the pilot, our warfighter on the battlefield. So we protect them using the electromagnetic spectrum. And because of that, we're able to jam signals, jam radar signals. We're able to use our optics to be able to use for targeting purposes. Um, Basically, we create a database that allows the aircraft to think before the pilot does. So if they get shot at, the airplane is going to react before the pilot, and they're able to come home safely. So that's basically what we do.
Hmm.
I've been doing that for 5.5 years now. And from the moment that I got there, I've been promoted 3 times. I went from electronic warfare engineer to lead electronic warfare engineer. I joined a bunch of groups, a social committee, and I became president of the social committee. From there, I got one of the members from the executive office reached out to me, and she asked me, look, hey, we're trying to create these employee resource groups for minorities, for all the different kinds. We had the women's group, we had the veterans group, and now we want to make a multiracial group. Would you like to be the chair of that group as well? So it was called Mosaic. We created it about a year and a half ago.
Mosaic, yeah, that's a good title for something like that.
Yeah, and it's an acronym, but don't ask me where the acronym is right now because it's pretty long.
Yeah,
So,
MOSAI, yeah.
yeah. So it was very successful that we had a lot of people join Mosaic right off the bat. And what I did, I used basically the network that I had of all the people that I had known in the conference that I attended. And I brought them over to give talks. So I brought for Native American Heritage Month. I brought one of my friends. She lives in Montana. She's Native American, but she does studies on buffalo. And so she gave a talk on diversity and the work that she does. She was actually about to release a show on National Geographic's on her work. But on top of that, I brought psychologists and basically try to bring my network to present at SRC, and that was really positive for the culture and how it impacted the culture at SRC.
Nice. So I'll ask you this question. What do you think is your biggest motivator, moving through all these positions? You feel like it was always to, learn more, to see how you could serve other people, or was it maybe the people themselves? What do you feel like it was?
Brian, I think the biggest motivation that I had, besides, I do believe that for me to be able to help somebody, I have to help myself at least intellectually. If I want to teach somebody something, I need to know it myself.
Yeah.
So the way that I think is that if I can improve myself, whether it is financially, financial literacy, if it's science, if it's leadership, then I can teach those things to other people.
Pass it to other people, yeah.
Yeah, I can pass it along, because then I'm not just doing my work. Because if I can teach others to do what I know, then you're multiplying your influence. It's basically what my thought process is. And at the same time, I work at SRC, but I've been teaching since I graduated. So I've been teaching at universities for 5 years. So I think I really enjoy the teaching aspect, the mentoring aspect. One of the things that I wanted to create, actually, I do have a page. It's not active yet, but it's going to be live soon or someday. It's called the Graduate Mentor. And it's basically, I found so many issues when it came to learning how to deal with all the struggles in graduate school. There's no support system for graduate students to be able to help them through the process.
I have heard similar complaints. I had a friend who graduated from UT Austin with a chemistry PhD, and I heard similar complaints from him. It was just there wasn't, you can go and you can teach to undergrads, but I mean, there's really no support for grad students to finish their doctorates, really.
So I wanted to create a platform that would help them. Forums and people that can chat, that are going through the same thing. So creating that kind of support system for them.
Awesome.
And I think that's one of the biggest things, that one of my biggest goals is to be able to do that.
Yeah, there's really nothing that's more satisfying, really. Once you learn something and realize that you have something to teach someone else. That, and if you're a teacher, I'm sure you understand this, that people picture just teachers as talking all the time, but being a teacher is more about listening than it is than speaking, correct?
That's right.
Yeah. It's an art that takes a long time to really master, because you're breathing with the classroom, you're listening to what their needs are, and you're providing, right?
Yeah, in the 5 years I've been teaching, I don't think I've had 2 exact lectures.
Yeah, it just
There's
never works
always
out
something
that way,
different.
right? Yeah.
It's very interesting. It's very fun. I like to teach because first I'm still learning. you're kind of mastering these little things, the little details that you miss when you went through school.
Right.
But then at the same time, you're teaching it to the students so they don't make the same mistakes that you made, which, I think that's very satisfying.
Learning not to yell at anybody. Stop that. Quit doing that.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons why I like to teach the university students. It's because they're there because they want to be there.
Yeah.
So I have, to this day, I have not had to kick anybody out of class. My classes are pretty small as they are, but I think I haven't had that experience, and I don't know if it's just because they like the way I teach. I really hope so. But yeah, thankfully, I have not had to deal with that situation. I've had to deal with students cheating, but that's not something you can avoid.
Right.
But
I mean, I'm sure you'll agree, but I think, and all of us have went through this. There is no group of people harder to teach than kids going through puberty. 7th, 6th,
oh
7th,
yeah,
8th graders. Man, they are just.
oh yeah, I have friends that teach middle school, and I tell them you're a special kind of person.
Oh yeah, you got to be pretty special to teach that group.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where they're at. So I guess we could end with our last question. Maybe tell us your favorite story. Maybe a teaching story. You got to have some good teaching stories. Maybe your favorite group that you taught, or maybe a subject you taught that was your favorite.
Oh yeah, I think that the favorite topic that I like to teach is electromagnetic waves because I like to relate it to your thought process.
Hey.
Kind kind of like a little bit of Newton's laws and the law of karma and the way that you think and how those electromagnetic waves that come out of your brain manifest in the world around you. So I always tell my students this. I'm like, if you learn something or anything at all in this class, I want you to know that everything that you think is going to come out there into the world and it's going to come back to you somehow. So whatever you think, first of all, it's going to be affecting everybody around you. So if you think positive and you do positive things, then that's what you're going to be attracting to your life. So they love that because every time that I taught them something not about class, but something about class that could be related to them specifically that they could apply on a daily basis, they always, I could see the expression on their face, and I could see that I was, reaching them at some level.
That's awesome. That's
Mhm.
my favorite movie during the holidays. It was my mom's favorite movie too. Is It's a Wonderful Life. That's the best story about karma that there is, right? Somebody that
Mhm.
serves their community their whole life, and then they go through that dark night of the soul moment when things seems like everything's going to collapse, but all those things that he did for everyone, came back, and found out he was the richest man in town, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Guillermo. Thanks for coming with me on this Monday, an odd day. I don't think you could meet my other schedule, so I'm open to anybody's wherever I can get you, I'll get you.
All right. No, Brian, I appreciate the time and thank you for inviting me to your podcast. It's great.
Awesome. Have a good one.
All right. You too.